Well, Father George Saltzman, the Harvard Catholic Center. We're here in the Catholic Center right outside my office, and this is one of my favorite painters is John Singer Sargent. And here's one he did in London. He had them come over for it to his studio. These are the 4 founding physicians of the hospital and medical school at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. And this is the most famous one, William Osler, Dr. William Osler, Sir William Osler, right here. I'd like to talk about him. He was perhaps around the turn of the previous century, so 1900, perhaps the most famous physician in the English-speaking world. He was a Canadian, started at McGill, then he ended up being the head of medicine at Penn in Philadelphia, University of Pennsylvania Hospital. And then after that, he had a remarkable opportunity. Johns Hopkins, a wealthy Baltimore merchant, had left a bequest to found a hospital and a med school, also, of course, the university. And so he became the founding head of medicine at Johns Hopkins Hospital. But it wasn't quite, the building wasn't quite ready yet when he headed there, so he had time on his hands. And it's a measure of his industry and his intellect and his basic energy that he wrote a very famous book, The Principles and Practice of Medicine. Now, when I say it was famous, think of this. That was in the late 1800s. The book continued its editions until the year 2000 or 2001. Hard to believe. It had an impact a different way, and that is that the advisor for benefactions, for philanthropy, to John Rockefeller, was actually a Baptist minister, his main advisor, and he got a hold of a copy of that, and he saw that medicine at that point, honestly stated, was a bit more art than science. And he decided to try to remedy that with some of the Rockefeller money. And so they founded the Rockefeller Institute there in Midtown Manhattan, near, we think of it by Sloan Kettering there in Cornell Med School. And so the Rockefeller Institute became Rockefeller University. I have a vivid sense of that because before I came here, I was doing a postdoc in molecular bio at Princeton University. And my advisor, who had discovered P53, the tumor suppressor gene, Arnie Levine, was the founding head of the bio department. They gave him 38 to build a building and start a department. And then he became, based on all he'd done there, the president of the Rockefeller University in Manhattan. He's now at, of course, real lazy boats. He's now down at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton. So you see the far-flung impact that William Osler had. More so this, that he founded the idea of residency training for physicians in this country. He wanted to get people out of the classroom and simply laden with books and into the wards and thereby the patient to learn at the bedside. And that was his principal aim. He said he'd be happy if that was epitaph, that he got them out of the wards, got them out of the classroom into the wards. And that indeed he did. He had many one-liners along this line. A good doctor focuses on the disease. A great doctor focuses on the patient. Perhaps the single most repeated line would be, listen to your patient. He or she is trying to tell you the diagnosis. If you don't listen or give them time to speak, you won't learn the diagnosis. Listen to your patient. He or she is trying to tell you the diagnosis. They had a great compendium, you see, which always has struck me, and that is, they who study medicine without books sail an uncharted sea. They who study medicine without patience, patience with a T, without patience, never go to sea at all. Never go to sea at all. If you think of theology, people often talk about the importance of pastoral theology, and they often forget the fact that what's on the shelf in a book is not quite the same thing as it's used, the way our blessed Lord taught things and what we see in the Gospels, actually with people added into the mix, and all that that brings to the understanding. After Hopkins, he became Regius Professor at Oxford, so he went to England. But before he left Baltimore, he was rushing down the street one day, and a young doctor whom he taught a bit back saw him and called out, Dr. Osler, what are you rushing to? And he said, I'm going to the county medical meeting. I wonder why you aren't going there too. That was the continuing medical ed of the day. My grandfather, through my uncle, used to hear stories about that. And you'd have a Fredo Bistro of doctors of all kinds of abilities and stuff sharing their insights. And why aren't you going? He said, the doctor looked down and he said, well, frankly, I find I don't get much out of them. And Osler looked him right in the eye and said, do you think I go because of what I can get? I go because of what I can give. I go because of what I can give. Now that's really the measure of a life and a barometer of our own maturation. In one part of life, we're given things, we're an utter need, and then we're given an education, 100 other things. But there comes a time when we have to give back and look out for everyone else, moving from getting to giving. So we can think of it individually on Father's Day or Mother's Day. We can think of nurses and teachers and doctors and EMTs. But the important thing, too, is to learn for ourselves. and most important of transitions from getting to giving. God bless you.